Samsung just released the news S25 Edge, and there's been a lot of talk about it already that's not true. Let's get into it. So Samsung did kind of a soft unpack event. They did it online, YouTube. You can watch the video if you want to, where they released the S25 Edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare that to the S25 Ultra, the S25 Plus, and we're going to talk about what's different and what is it they're saying that's not quite true about the Edge. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to decide whether this is right for you and determine what is true and not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the specs of this new phone, and we're going to compare it to the other two. And then at the very end, I'll give you my opinion on this phone. So starting with the dimensions of this phone, it's the same size actually as the Plus as far as the outside dimensions, the width, the height. The difference is only in the thickness. This thing is a 5.8 millimeters in thickness, whereas you get a 7.3 millimeters in the S25 and an 8.2 millimeters in the Ultra. Why is the Ultra so thick? Well, I'm guessing it's because they needed that slot for the pen to go in there. And the fact that it does have a larger battery, more cameras, and so on. And because of the thickness, the weight kind of follows along with that. You have 190 grams of weight here versus 163 here, and 218 grams on the S25 Ultra. So clearly it is the heaviest out of the bunch, but of course it's a little bit larger. It's a 6.9 inch screen versus a 6.7 inch screen on both of these. Now talking about the screen, we have the same ultra quality AMOLED screen with 120 hertz refresh rate on all three of these phones. Yes, you heard me. The S25 Plus has the same screen that you get on the Ultra, and now the Edge does. So all three phones have this in common. Another thing they all have in common is the new Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, which is in all three, and they all three have 12 gigabytes of RAM. Yes, you can get 16 in some parts of the world, but not where I live in the United States. Only 12 gigabytes of RAM in all three. Now, if you watch any other YouTubers, they compare this to the Ultra, and even somewhat in Samsung's video, they compare this Edge to the Ultra.
With the same customized Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy as S25 Ultra, you get the most powerful processor ever in our smartphones.
And this is where the comparisons start and then stop. As far as the build on both of them, they both contain titanium, making them lighter and stronger, which you needed the titanium on the Edge simply because it is thinner to make it a little stronger. So that was smart. And they also put a new Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 on this thing, which they say is stronger and less likely to break on a fall. So you've got a stronger frame and stronger glass. That is great. But this does not have that same glass. And what's different about the Ultra is they put a anti-reflective screen. I don't know why they didn't over here. If they wanted to be more like the Ultra, they should have. So now, so far, what this thing, where it's similar to the Ultra, so is the S25 Plus. Because it has a Snapdragon 8 Elite chip in it. It has the high resolution screen just like this, has the same gigabytes of RAM. They're all three compatible there. But the funny thing is, you never heard them talk about the S25 Plus being like the Ultra. Now let's go ahead and talk about some things that are obviously different. Hey, I want to take a quick second and tell you I appreciate you for hanging out with me on this video. And if you got anything out of this video that you like, show me your appreciation by smashing that like button down there. It really does help out the channel. Let's get back to the video. So first off is battery. You have a 5,000 milliamp battery here, a 4,900 milliamp hour battery here. So just 100 milliamps difference. And then on here, you have a 3,900 milliamp hour battery. That is small. And it's been years since Samsung has put a battery in that small in one of their phones. Now I'm here to tell you, and I could say it with confidence, this thing is not going to last anywhere near as long as these other two. They have the same chip, the same screen, the same RAM, so they produce the same power. And both of these have they do have 1,000 milliamp hour battery, larger than this phone right here. So now, according to their video, you can get a day's worth of use out of this phone. Now, the other half of the battery is the battery system, which is the charging. You get 45 watt charging out of the S25 Ultra. You get 45 watt charging out of the S25 Plus. Yes, you heard me right. You get the same charging power in the S25 Plus as you do the Ultra. You also get 15 watts wireless charging on both of these. Now, when it comes to this, you're getting the whole 25 watt charging system that you have in the standard S25. You're not getting the Ultra system. And I guess that's because they do want to differentiate between the two. But what does that tell you? What it tells me is S25 Plus is closer to the Ultra than the new Edge. but the new Edge has titanium. Oh boy. As you can probably see, I'm not falling for that too much. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking the phone as being anything but good, because it's going to be a great phone because it does have the same processor. It does have the great screen just like the two of them. And if you buy it now, they'll upgrade the storage up to 512 from 256. So that's a real great deal. And if you've always wanted a thinner phone, which nobody's asked for, and a lighter phone, then this is a really great deal. Now let's move on to cameras. Cameras is an interesting thing. You know, on the S25 Ultra, you have a 200 megapixel camera, which is the big selling point of the Ultra. Plus, it has a 50 megapixel main. And then, of course, you got the 10 times zoom, all kinds of cameras on this thing. Now, on the S25 Plus, you have a 50 megapixel main. You have a 10 megapixel 3 times zoom, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide. Whereas on the Ultra, you have a 50 megapixel ultra wide. So it's much more superior. Now, since we're talking about cameras, let's focus in on the Edge now. The Edge is coming with a 200 megapixel main shooter. That is impressive. And what you're hearing from a lot of the viewers or the YouTube people out there is they're saying that this phone is getting the same 200 megapixel camera as the S25 Ultra. Wrong, not true. And I'll explain that here in just a moment. And you're also getting a 12 megapixel wide, which is closer to the S25 than it is the Ultra. Now, how are the 200 megapixel cameras different? Well, if you just simply watch their video, as they say here,
we created a groundbreaking camera module, which allowed us to equip the Galaxy S25 Edge with the smallest high-resolution camera we've ever made.
In this video, they tell us that they had to figure out a way to shrink down the camera, the 200 megapixel camera, to get it into this phone. Well, guess what? If you shrink down the camera, you're going to shrink down the sensor, and they did. This has a 1/3 size sensor, so it's much larger than a 156 size sensor that you're getting here with the 200 megapixel camera. And what that means in plain English is this thing will allow more light and more detail for your image than this will. This won't allow nowhere near as much light. I'd be willing to bet when they go out there and do camera tests, the 50 megapixel and the S25 Plus will do better, especially when it comes to low light. With the low light, really needing a larger sensor to capture more light to give you a better image. Now, Samsung is playing that off with their AI features. If you look at this video here, you can see with their AI, they are really going to improve the photo processing. But guess what? That's on all three. I mean, personally, I'm thinking the Edge just needs it more because they are shrinking the sensors down on the cameras to fit them into this phone. Now, another thing that you're hearing out there is they're saying they did not, because they only put the 200 megapixel main and the ultra wide camera, they did not put a zoom lens in this phone. Well, that's not quite so. If you check out their video, they say that this thing has 2 times optical zoom with the 200 megapixel camera. So there you have it. It does have 2 times capability, not 3 times, but at least that's something. Now, don't make the wrong assumption and think that you can actually zoom in on 200 megapixel camera and you can get a clear photo and zooming in after the fact. But that's not quite true with the way that Samsung bends down to the pixels on these cameras to make it a palatable size image. Otherwise, a 200 megapixel camera will really take up a lot of space and they're hard to work with on a computer when it's got such a huge image size. Now, here's another thing that it is getting from the Ultra, and that's the higher price tag. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. Now, as far as this phone, I'm not quite sure who it's for because this is a niche. It's a specifically designed phone for a specific person, somebody that wants a thin. And what I'm hearing a lot of YouTubers saying is people that want an Ultra phone, but they don't use an S Pen, so they don't want to pay the extra money for that. And they like the 200 megapixel camera. Well, I just explained that that's not equal, but maybe it is for people that think they're getting a more high-end Ultra phone because it's made out of titanium, and they are putting the same processor in their high-end camera, but they are doing it over here too. And if you want a lighter weight phone that does everything that the Ultra does, except without a pen, you got it with the S25 Plus. We don't really need the Edge. So I'm making a prediction here. This is one of those come and go phones. It's here, it's a niche, and they're not going to make it again. So if you want to get a one-of-a-kind phone, hey, there's the phone for you. Now, again, I just want to reiterate that it's not a bad phone. It's going to be very good in performance. It's going to have the same One UI 7, and I'm sure shortly after the One UI 8. with the rest of these phones, it's going to perform just as well. It's going to take great photos. It's going to fit into your pocket better. It's going to be lightweight. It's going to check a lot of boxes for a lot of people. But I'm just wondering, what kind of trade-in value is it going to have down the road when they don't make it anymore? Now, if you're one of those people that gets a phone and you keep it for 7 years, well, there you go. But I think within that time, you're going to be missing out on that third camera. Now, that's my view. I want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments. What do you think? Is this a phone that we were asking for, or we were expecting, or wanted to see? Is it a phone that you might get? What is it that you think would excite you, or what excites you about this phone? I want to know. If you want to know more about the 200 megapixel cameras and how they compare and how they differ, and I compare this phone to other phones with zoom lenses, you really got to check out this video here. Thanks for hanging out with me. Until next time, God bless.